Okay, if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, but let's get right to it. So, the headline is, Sean Young says her career was derailed by Ridley Scott, Oliver Stone, Warren Beatty, and others. Wow. Let's get into it. All right, so Sean Young, best known for her roles in Blade Runner and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Best known? Out of all the movies she's been in, those are the two you cite. Yes, I get Blade Runner. Yes, I get Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. But come on. She's been in so much more. She's been acting in Hollywood for over 40 years and has seen a lot. Yeah, 40 years. She's been in other things besides Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, which I love, by the way. Once branded as difficult to work with and blacklisted in Hollywood, Young revealed how her career was sabotaged by a handful of powerful, terribly vindictive men. Here we go. In an interview with the Daily Beast's Marlo Stern, the actor said she doesn't think of herself as strong-willed, but she did make men nervous, and for no particular reason, back in the 80s. During the interview, Stern mentioned that David Letterman interview where Young flaunted her armpit hair, to which she said Letterman was intimidated in the moment. Well, that makes sense. David Letterman, I love him to death, but he's always been a little quirky, if you will, when he does his interviews. David's much more insecure than he lets on, Young said. He's a great guy, though, and in my opinion, it's much more common for show business to attract very insecure people, people who need approval. It's not really known for attracting honest, down-to-earth, salt-of-the-earth folks unless they're on the crew. Wow, what a statement, and a good statement. You know, as an actor, too, I understand that, always needing to have approval. You know, you want to have the best performance. You want to be loved by people. A lot of creative people feel this way. And, you know, when they're let down or they lose a movie role or something like that, or something doesn't go their way, or a movie is not well received, it hurts. It's like a stab in the heart for a lot of talent. But the crew is down to earth. Yeah, it makes sense because most of my work in the film industry is on the crew side. And I work with a lot of people, you know, they're the grips, the electrics, the carpenters in construction, transportation. All these people are blue collar workers. They're not people that walk red carpets, and they're really down to earth people. So her statement is accurate. And I believe that about David Letterman. He probably comes across very insecure. Let's see. Young said she never always felt that she was down to earth and straightforward with other people, but later realized that she may have been perceived as offensive. Yeah, I mean, she probably came across as, in her mind, down to earth and, would say anything off the cuff, but then realized that probably got her in some hot water. She says, it wasn't my intention. I only got offensive later because I started getting pissed off. Like, this is serious. This is my career. You don't just blacklist me. It's terrible. I get that. So, you know, it's like, at first it's like, okay, I get it. People don't like that I'm very outspoken and it puts people off. But now you're like, you're not hiring me, and it's messing with my livelihood financially and the love of my career and being in film and television. She says, after co-star with Young in The Boost in 1988, James Woods filed a harassment lawsuit against her, which she eventually ended up winning. But see, people won't remember that. They'll remember that he filed a lawsuit for harassment against her, but they won't remember that she won. When asked why Woods was so vindictive, she said she learned that a rational person will not be able to understand an irrational person. Wow. Everybody in Hollywood knows James Woods is a dick, and that's why he got blacklisted. That's my opinion. And most of Hollywood. I couldn't wrap my head around it, Young said. It was so nutty and stupid and a waste, not only of my time, but not good for himself. Why take all the attention off this movie and put it on this? Wow, so they're trying to do a movie, The Boost. They're trying to get it out there. And then for whatever reason, and James Woods, they've always said he's got the biggest dick in Hollywood, and he probably swung it a lot. And I bet he's scared too. At some point, the Me Too movement's going to come for him. But yeah, I mean, why ruin a press junket when you're trying to put out a movie, make money so that everyone makes residual income? Why trash it? I don't know. Why file a lawsuit against her? The Daily Beast brought up a 2009 interview between Young and Carl Reiner, the great Carl Reiner, where Reiner said Young's reputation has been unfairly smeared by a famous director. Asked if the director was Warren Beatty, Young said Warren was definitely one of them. Steven Spielberg was another. Ouch. Warren Beatty, I get. Steven Spielberg, that breaks my heart if that's true. I just watched him, on Drew Barrymore's television show, talk show, and he was talking to her. It was on her 40th birthday or 46th birthday, and it was such a beautiful segment. And I love Spielberg, so this worries me a little bit. When asked if Beatty was the worst of the bunch, Young replied, "No, I think the sleazy or difficult part is that he probably thought he was treating me really well. You know what I'm saying? It's not just Warren. It's across the board. Ever since the movie business began, women have been treated as a commodity. There was always someone grabbing you, and I just ignored it. I mean, have you taken a look at Harvey Weinstein? How the fuck is he going to get laid unless he has power? Never. Wow, what a statement. The thing about Warren Beatty is he's always been arrogant and smug. And, that probably came across on a personal level too, if he was working on set on a movie. In Hollywood, as an actor, whether you're, male or female, you always have to have a little bit of arrogance in order to get anywhere in the business. Because if you don't believe your own bullshit, you're not going to get very far. You have to have, some people, would call it, what's the word I'm looking for? Narcissistic. But no, people confuse narcissism with arrogance. And I've met lots of actors in Hollywood over the years. And I think, there's a handful that get misconstrued as narcissistic, but they're really arrogant. But this is great about Harvey Weinstein. It's true. He's a troll. Like, how the hell was he going to get laid in Hollywood without pulling the power play on everybody? Back in 2017, Young revealed that Weinstein exposed himself to her while working on the 1992 film Love Crimes, which was produced by Weinstein's former company Miramax. She told him, "I really wouldn't be pulling that thing out because it's really not pretty. Put that little thing away." This is when she said she got a bad reputation for saying no. Well, she's not the only one that's come out against Harvey Weinstein, so I kind of believe this. Why would she make that up? And you have to remember, someone that gross, think of who they really are inside, Young said. I think his game plan was be as powerful as possible so you can get laid. That's as simple as most of these plans are for people. It doesn't get a lot deeper than that. That makes total sense. Total sense. Let's see. When asked about the incredibly aggressive and uncomfortable love scene in Blade Runner that Young filmed with Harrison Ford, she said director Ridley Scott really wanted to date her, but she never reciprocated. He started dating the actress who played Zora, Joanna Cassidy, and I felt relieved, Young said. And then we did this scene, and I think it was Ridley. Like, fuck you, I was thinking. Why did this have to be like that? What was the point of that? And I think it was Ridley's non-too-subtle message that he was getting even with me. Wow. I've always found, and I love the movie Blade Runner. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I've always found the scene where Harrison Ford slams Sean Young, up against the Venetian blinds and really muscles her. It looked so realistic, like she was shocked it was going to go down. I hope they got it in one take too. I hope they didn't do multiple takes of that. It was very aggressive, and I wonder what the decision factor was in that, because I never really saw that love-hate dynamic for the two characters in Blade Runner for him to be that aggressive in that scene. It was just really, it always jarred me, made me feel out of place. And I mean, if this is accurate, what she's saying, and I have no reason to doubt it, it just seems like a dick move. But see, I don't think Harrison Ford would have played it that way if there wasn't some intention or something that was told to him to play it that way. And a lot of times when actors do a scene like this, they really talk about how that's going to go down, so that there's boundaries set up. So I don't know, man. I really hope that's not the case, but this is what Young's saying. Young said Scott never hired her again, and when it came to the Blade Runner 2049, the actress was handed a 30-second hologram cameo. Well, yeah, that was the CGI. They put her face over somebody else's body. Wasn't that so full of shit, Young said, and there was nothing I could do about it. It was very clear that they knew that the audience would be upset that I wasn't in it, but they didn't want me to bitch about that publicly. So they paid me some money, made me sign a non-disclosure agreement, and gave me 30 seconds, and I was like, fine. They did give my son Quinn a job on Blade Runner 2049 in visual arts, and I said all was forgiven. He's got great skills. Wow. 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 I mean, really, I thought she was going to be coming back, a lot like what they did with, all the cast of the new Star Wars trilogy when they brought everybody back and, they put them through physical fitness and got them all into shape and everything. It would have been nice to see her in Blade Runner 2049 but obviously the story was that she died and during childbirth and all that kind of stuff. And they hid the child but if that's her perception about it, I can understand that, because in all reality, they didn't even need Harrison Ford in that movie, Blade Runner 2049. It could have all been about Ryan Gosling, and they could have just shown the bits and pieces and explained what happened prior, because it was such a jump in the future. Let's see what she says. Young discussed the time Charlie Sheen wrote the word cunt on a piece of paper, taped and stuck it to her back while filming Wall Street in 1987. She said Sheen did a lot of cocaine on set and was awful. Additionally, she called Oliver Stone a bastard for reducing her role after she stuck up for Daryl Hannah, who was forced to wear a dress she didn't feel comfortable in. Well, Charlie Sheen, Tiger Blood and all that. Yeah, I get it. I mean, dude, it was the 80s. Everybody was doing coke back then in Hollywood. And I can only imagine Charlie Sheen on a set in the 80s at the height of his career back then. He was probably a big dick. So I could see that happening. Yeah, man. I mean, like, would that happen in modern day filmmaking? In all the movie sets that I've ever been on, I've never seen anybody put a piece of, gaffer's tape on someone's back and wrote the word cunt on it and let them walk around all day on set. I've never seen that in my almost 20-year career in the film industry as a crew member. Never seen any kind of treatment like that of anyone. So yeah, I mean, it's a representation of the times, I think, in the 80s with all the cocaine and the crazy shit that was going on in Hollywood. Not that there's not crazy shit going on in Hollywood now, but it's just not, I've never seen anything like that. I look over at Oliver and I say, Oliver, why would you want her to wear a dress she doesn't feel comfortable in? Young said. He says, could you excuse us for a minute? And I get up and I leave the trailer. So we're doing the rehearsal and he takes my only one line in the scene. Bud's talking about racehorses, and I turn to him and say, these are jumping horses, dear. These aren't racehorses, like a big snob. And he gives the line to Daryl. Ooh, yeah, that's a dick move. Oliver Stone, a lot of times actors are puppets to directors. They just really want them to say what's on the paper and not give a lot of input, and sometimes, when you give input, it's supposed to be a collaborative effort, filmmaking, and sometimes it's not, depending on who the director is. That's a shame that happened. After nearly landing the role of Marion Ravenwood in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Young said she offended Steven Spielberg asking him at a New Year's Eve party why she didn't get the part. Ooh. Now I remember seeing the behind the scenes on the Blu-ray with Sean Young doing screen tests with Tom Selleck. And, you know, to this day, I still go, although I love Karen Allen, who played the part of Marion Ravenwood, I've always said Sean Young's screen test was really good. And I'm surprised they didn't go with Sean Young. But here we are. He was all, I did not mislead you. I did not, Young said. I was like, whoa, calm down. I didn't mean it like that you were a bad guy or anything. I just really thought I was going to get the part. You flew me back to California twice. He's very sensitive. Wow. Well, you know what? I remember hearing a story. Sometimes directors, when they're that powerful in Hollywood, he had just coming off Jaws and E.T. or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was the bomb. So here he is getting ready to do Raiders of the Lost Ark. And they fly actors out. And I remember Will Smith saying once in an interview, he was slated to meet Steven Spielberg, and all of a sudden a helicopter was landing to pick him up and take him all the way to see Steven Spielberg for a screen test or like an interview for a movie. And so, yeah, I mean, actors get flown in all the time, even for screen tests. So I could see how in her mind, she thought, hey, he's flying me back twice. You know, he really must be interested in me. You know, why didn't I get the part? And I guess he was offended by that. Why do, I mean, I guess like, why would you want to explain to an actor that it didn't get the part? You know, that's probably one of those things that like, it's like you cringe because you feel bad because they really wanted the part and then you have to explain to them why. So if you're at a party, it's probably the last thing you want to talk about. But I can't imagine Spielberg, after having that conversation, completely blackballing Sean Young and calling up casting agents and saying, hey, you know, don't hire her. That doesn't make sense to me. Out of all the men mentioned, Young praised Ace Ventura Pet Detective co-star Jim Carrey. She said he fought for her to get the part, even though Morgan Creek Productions wanted someone else. I wonder who they wanted. He's the only leading man who ever did that for me, Young said. Jim came in and said, no. Whatever you're hearing is bullshit. She's great. Oh, man, you know what? That makes me feel good. I've always loved Ace Ventura Pet Detective. And that movie would not be that movie without Sean Young. Einhorn's a man. You know, I mean, look, you know, like all that. She was so good in that. And with Tone Loc too. I've always loved Ace Ventura Pet Detective. I've always loved Sean Young. You know, circling back to Spielberg, that's still, I don't know if that, you know, that might be her perception versus reality. I got to hope that Spielberg isn't that guy. Everyone else, James Woods, I buy. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein, I get a lot of those guys. Spielberg, I don't know. But I'm thanks Jim Carrey for being a class act and pulling Sean Young into Ace Ventura Pet Detective. I will say, you know, she did get a little bit of flack back when Tim Burton was doing Batman Returns, and she really was lobbying for the part of Catwoman. And I remember she went on a morning show. I remember seeing it, and she dressed up as Catwoman, and she was just, cause I guess they wouldn't even read her. And she really, it was at that point where, again, like, you know, you get desperate as an actor, and because you can get on television on a talk show, to try to lobby for a part when the doors were closing in on her, because, you know, you had a couple of assholes that were slamming doors in her face. I feel bad. You know, she probably would have done a great job with Catwoman, and her career might have turned out differently, but, you know, she still is doing her thing. I've always loved Sean Young. This was not a surprising, you know, and some people are going to say, why didn't she come out and talk about it back then? Why didn't she come forward with all this? Why now? Well, I mean, the thing about it is a lot of people start talking when the evil man falls. Like, for example, Harvey Weinstein, when he started his downward fall, that's when everybody felt like they could come and speak up. and talk about the harassment or this or whatever, or if they were pressured to have sex and all that for movie parts. You know, it's an age-old story in Hollywood. This is nothing new. It goes back decades and decades and decades and decades, probably to the inception of filmmaking, that women have truly always been like a commodity, you know, kind of like when Joel Silver had to pay $1 million per boob for Halle Berry to go topless in Swordfish. She would not do it, and but he paid her $2 million to go topless in one scene in the movie Swordfish. Halle Berry. That's a commodity, you know, nakedness, you know, the whole 9 yards, you know, how women are treated in film and television for decades. And, but that's the pendulum has shifted, and things have changed, and it's really good. And it's nice to see Sean Young come out. Sean Young does have a YouTube channel that I had subscribed to and that I had checked out years ago. She hasn't updated it in forever, but she does have a lot of interesting home videos that she put up there. She even does some yoga, things like that. And I think maybe, you know, once again, when her YouTube channel started getting popular, you know, she didn't want the attention that she thought, you know, it was going to give her. And so she backed away from it and hasn't really updated it. But she had some really great home videos, even from like behind the scenes on Ace Ventura Pet Detective. So I'm going to put the link to this article from Variety in the comment section. I'm also going to put the link to her YouTube channel so you could check that out and see some of this rare footage of Sean Young back in the day. It's really, really cool to watch. And Antonio Formé, thank you for this article in Variety. We really appreciate it. And what did you guys think? What do you think about Sean Young saying this now about how it derailed her career? Let's talk about it in the comments section. We'll see you on the next one.